Hello, it is Weng Tong Choi, and my set ID is z5387760. I'd like to reflect my learning during MGMT 50/50 on being a responsible professional. I separate the video into 3 parts. First, I will share the experience that changed my initial thoughts. Initially, I thought a responsible professional should maximize profits for the shareholders within the legal framework. At the time, I did not question that the legally permitted action could raise ethical consequences. However, the most meaningful experience was the Drunken George incident. Rio Tinto destroyed the priceless cultural heritage of the Aboriginal people. Although the action is legally permitted, there is something that we cannot do even though it is legal. It was my first time understanding that the law does not mean acting ethically correct. My mindset shifted from asking, is it legal to do, to a deeper concept by asking, how could we do it ethically? I realized a responsible professional has the responsibility to identify and protect the diverse values of all stakeholders. Moreover, we should not solely use money to determine intangible values, like culture. Second, I'll talk about the importance of the concept to my personal growth. For me, the social connection model had the most significant impact. Previously, I felt powerless about global problems. For example, the supply chain of fast fashion clothes I bought might link to sweatshop factories. Thus, I felt guilty of my behavior, which may have led to the exploitation of workers. However, the SCM theory saves me from the dilemma. It tells me not to blame myself when involved in unjust systems. On the contrary, I should bear the responsibility to work and modify the unjust systems with others. It is essential to my growth because it shifts my mindset from negative self-blame to positive action. I realized my small action could remake unjust systems. Thus, I plan to start a clothing swap with my friends to avoid fast fashion consumption model. Finally, I'll give an example of applying knowledge from the course to my future career. During the course, I learned to think problems ethically and systematically, consider all stakeholder values, and proactively align with SDGs and ESG. Since I will become an athlete in the future, I decided to become a proactive systemic risk considerer rather than a passive risk calculator. Then, I put the systemic insights into action by providing financial products to incentivize cooperative behaviors that benefit society. For example, the pricing strategy should include ESG performance considerations. Then, I actively communicate with my colleagues and supervisors for my suggestions. I'll suggest offering a lower premium for companies improving their ESG performance. However, charging a higher premium for companies with high climate risk. Thus, this pricing plan could lower our company's risks and encourage corporations to protect the planet actively. That is the end of my reflection. Thank you for listening.